depending on where you're joining us from, right? I welcome each and every one of us to this webinar. And on behalf of the International Affairs Committee of the Young Surveyors Network, Lagos State branch, I warmly welcome each and every one of you to this webinar once again. My name is Surveyor Sutoiden Theophilus, and I am the team lead for the International Affairs Committee. And we have put together this webinar for the growth of the network and to bridge the divide between the international community and our local practice here in Lagos State, Nigeria, right? The topic that we have before us this evening, it's a very sensitive topic, how global trends are reshaping local survey practice, right? And this topic speaks directly to the evolving nature of our professional surveyors, right? And as we have come to understand, surveying is no longer that confined profession to traditional boundaries, right? It is being transformed every day and every moment by global forces. Either it is an advancement in geospatial technology, digital mapping, automation, data integration, sustainability demands, and maybe international best practices. The list keeps on going on and on, right? And this evolution is we cannot help it. It's just happening, right? And these trends are influencing how we collect, process, analyze, communicate, and apply spatial data here in Nigeria, right? And for us as young professionals, as members of the network, it's this conversation we're about to have this evening is not just relevant, but it is very necessary. If we must compete at the global scale, it is very necessary, right? And I would like to add that understanding these global shifts, right, positions us to remain not just competitive, but very innovative and impactful, right, as professionals, as professional surveyors, right? And it also challenges us to rethink our methods and strategies, upgrade our skill sets, and align with international best practices while addressing the local realities we face in our day-to-day practice, here in Lagos State, as the case may be. And we will not just be having this conversation alone, right? We have two seasoned surveyors on the call with us this evening, and we have Surveyor Sadiq Kadri, and he's a respected expert with deep experience in modern surveying technologies, right? Techniques and geospatial data applications. He brings valuable and robust insights, so to say, into the practice and how to harness technology and global standards as they influence survey practice. That is one of our speakers this evening. And to write on that is Surveyor Jimo Habib. He is also an astute and accomplished surveyor. He is going to also bring his wealth of knowledge to bear. He's known for his practical experience as well and industry perspectives to the issues that we'll be having conversations with this evening. And he would help us also bridge the gap where we find most professionals, most young professionals today, which is that gap between global developments and real world application within our local context in here in Lagos, Nigeria, right? And with these two giants on the call this evening, we are very confident that their combined wealth of experience and knowledge is going to provide us with practical insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways, most importantly, on this webinar. So, without further ado, I welcome each and every one of us once again. And I encourage us to stay very attentive, very engaged. Note your have your notepad beside you. Take questions, be inquisitive, ask questions, and listen with rapt attention as we explore how global trends are shaping the future of surveying practice locally. Once again, my name is Surveyor Sutedim Theophilus. Thank you very much and welcome to the webinar. Thank you. So with me on the call this evening is I would just like to introduce some of our very respectable members of the network. Our state chair, Sylvia Rachel. You're welcome to the call. It's a privilege and it's an honor to have you on the call with us. The deputy state chair, you're welcome to the call as well, and every other member of the executive committee and other committee leads, you're welcome to the call. And on my team, I have Savio Akambi Tosin and Savio Tohib and the other members of my team. They'll be together with me and piloting this webinar as we delve into the topics and the speakers. So please, at the appropriate time, and the Q&A session will be open, and you can drop your questions in the chat box, so that we can harvest them, and while our resource persons will be doing justice to those questions. At the end of the webinar, you will also have a feedback form to fill, because we also want to know how impactful and resourceful this has been to you as a young professional. So please, the feedback form will be on the chat box as well, and it will be also on our platform for a couple of days, so that we can also get that feedback to improve our service to you as a network. So I'll hand over at this point in time to my co-teammates as they take us to the next item on their agenda for the webinar. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Good evening. We can hear you.
Okay, good. Without wasting much of our time, because time is fast spent, I would be welcoming our guest speakers. Our first speaker will be taking us through the global trends in surveying, highlighting key innovations shaping the profession worldwide. So doing that would be Savio Jimo Abib. Then our second speaker, Savio Lutomi Sadiq, will talk about the impact of these trends in surveying practice in our local environments. So I'll be reading a brief introduction to for our first speaker. That's in the person of Savio Jimo Habib. So, good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Our first speaker will be Savio Jimo Olalekan Habib. Savio Jimo Olalekan Habib is a registered surveyor, geospatial consultant, and lecturer at the University of Lagos with over 10 years of experience in the profession. His expertise in hydrography, GIS, and spatial modeling has driven high-impact projects from Lagos State mapping initiatives to World Bank-funded infrastructure development. As a researcher with numerous peer-reviewed publications and an active consultant on major marine and urban infrastructure projects, is uniquely positioned to show us how advanced global techniques are being applied locally. So, ladies and gentlemen, with the use of your emojis, please join me as we welcome Savio Jimo Olalekan Habib on the call. Thank you.
Good evening,
Savio,
everyone.
Savio Jimo, you have the floor
Yeah.
now, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Now. Surveyor Adibia, and and Metropolis. I'm very honored and grateful for this invitation to talk to us this evening, and it's very welcome idea. I really appreciate that. I promise that because this anytime I'm being invited for something like this, I'm doing every time. Thank you very much for the opportunity. How we can hear me clearly, sir? Ama. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you faintly, sir.
Okay. Just to guide all our presentation today. Thank you, guys.
It's loading right now. We can see your screen now, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. And again, everyone. Yeah, we're talking about how global trends are reshaping our local surveillance practices in Nigeria. And basically, I will focus on this session is being brought up by International Affairs Committee, and we have to explore how international standards are transforming surveying in Nigeria and why alignment matters for every surveyor. Now, let's start it by this. If you are given a project by international consultants to carry out a survey of lagoon, I'm very used to hydrography, carry out survey of part of Lagos Lagoon for purpose of international companies, consultants or companies. Are you sure that your output or your result of the survey will be accepted by the UK or USA consultants? The truth answer is that most of the time, the survey is not always accepted. Not always, except with some few companies. And why are they not acceptable? And what do we need to do to make our survey work that is being done by everybody in Nigeria to be acceptable internationally? What do we need to do? The reason why most of the work are not always acceptable are not because we don't know what we are doing, or we don't know the principle of the survey. No, we know the principle, but we really know the international standard, what is required of us. Without that, our data becomes incompatible and unreliable and legally questionable. If we don't follow the international standards, then there's no way they can make use of the data. And that is the reason why we are here today. And with standards, data will be consistent, data will be accurate and internationally trusted. And also, you have what we call repeatability value. That is, if many people carry out the same survey with the same standard, they will arrive at the same result. And that's why one of the reasons why we need to align with international trends. Now, there are some bodies of organizations of bodies that set rules for different types of surveillance. And part of it is FIG. And FIG is International Federation of Surveyors that sets global professional guidelines and promotes best practice across members nationally, internationally. What do they do? This FID, they set standards for not only cadastral surveying, but every aspect of surveying. They are the major umbrella for surveying a professional body. Because they set standards for both hydrography, they talk about fit for purpose in different areas of surveying, from cadastral to land management to hydrography to modeling, environmental modeling, and so on and so forth. Then we have IHO. IHO is basically International Hydrographic Organization that establishes standards for marine and hydrographic surveying worldwide. They are limited to marine environments, which of course is a very large body because as we know that the Earth surface is covered by more than 70% water body. That is, they are guiding more than 70% of our Earth surface. There are certain rules that is guiding the operation of surveyors on the water body. And we also have ISO, which is International Organization Standardization, that works across every big industry, not limited to surveying alone. So for us to have a global alignment, we must understand what are the requirements of all these organizations. We must time to time review and update ourselves with their publications to understand what are the requirements. For example, now in ISO, when computers start, before we were using S44 as standard. Now we have S100, and there's a lot of things that are being updated to S100 and so on and so on. So for you to have an alignment, you need to have update yourself in all these areas of the professional body. Now, what are the standardization and the survey procedures? Two surveyors map the same area. One follows proper standards and the other does not. You can agree with me that their result will not be the same thing. Why? Because of standardization. And once your data is not standard, then it will not be reliable. And many people will not agree with you. And what are the things, what are the procedures that involve that standardization? Which areas of standardization does the surveying come in? Number one, in our data collection, we have standard procedure. I can give you the example of hydrography. For example, if I want to carry out the hydrographic surveying, let's say the bathymetric survey using multi-beam, there are sets of standard procedures that you must follow during your data collection. If you don't follow it, the data will not be accessible. We'll come to that later. Then let's talk about calibration. We also have procedure. For example, in hydrography to multi-beam survey, you must carry out the calibration of each of those sensors to get the depth information in hydrography, in multi-beam. You need something less than 5 to 7 sensors. You need GPS for positioning. You need gyro compass for heading. You need IMU or MRU for your motor sensor. You need the standard itself for the depth information, and so on and so forth. So on each of those equipment must be calibrated. They have standard calibration and standard calibration value you must have. At the end of the day, you can now combine all these together, carry out what we call act before you can arrive or you can start your data collection. If you don't follow all those regular standards, data will not be accessible. Even if it is done very well, if it doesn't follow all these standards, it will not be accessible. Aside the aspect of system calibration, we also look at each procedure. We have standard procedures that we must follow in order to have the stability. If, for example, now, example of field procedure is in hydrography. When you have your line, your running line, you must have your cross line. And the effect of cross line is the accuracy of the each of those lines, so that you are going to be sure that after you repeat the same point several times, you have the same result. That is repeatability. And lastly, talk about data processing. We also have some standard guiding the data processing. We have some standard workflow that is another. And lastly, that we need to work on is our data presentation and reporting. Now, what are the data quality and accuracy requirements for international jobs? For engineering, in survey, we have different aspects of survey and also require different accuracy. Not all the survey operations require the same level of accuracy. No. We have engineering survey that require very high accuracy. Structural integrity depends on our work, And also we have mapping and we have legal and cadastral survey, which requires high accuracy. And we know that all decision comes from poor data. And one thing is that there's no way you can process your data. If you have bad data, that's not how you can process the bad data to have good results. Now, we also need to talk about standard coordinate reference. In surveying, generally, we know we have global coordinate system, we have a local coordinate system, or local data. In Nigeria, for example, Nigeria consists of data, but globally now, many people are moving away from their own local system to global system, which is reference to a geocentric economy, which is a reference to Earth center origin, instead of applying your work to a particular data in your country. And why? That many countries are, like America now, in about 2 months or last 2 months, they make an announcement that they are moving from their nice to they're moving to their extra origin. Why? Number one, to have a global standard and standardization. But the problem is that because of tectonic shift, you're solving that some in Nigeria now, look at our tectonic plate is moving by 50 centimeter, meaning that every 10 years is required of us to fix our survey. So, but one thing is that in coordinate system, if you are working on a particular coordinate system, you must know the coordinate system you are working, because if you have mismatch of coordinate system, it's better you application as wrong data. Then, what are the global applications? Now, current state have inconsistent reporting. Most of some companies on their own, they are compliant with some international standard, where some companies we don't even care about it. Another time we have is equipment limitation. Most of all, we are limited in that. Many, like the hydro that I'm familiar with, a lot of equipment, most of us will know what we need to do. But the problem is that we don't have the required equipment to carry out those things. So that's why I can tell you that in this Lagos state, no more than 5 companies have automatic ID. And this is not a big deal in another client. So, but even if you want to carry out a tighter observation now for several months or several days, you have to do with your local method. Also, we also need to upgrade our, we need to learn, we need to have, so, but what I still agree with what we are making alignment. Many surveyors now, we are making use of GNSS now. I'm sure even the cadastral surveyors, surveyors, all of us now, even individual company now, they have GNSS. Thanks to most of our vendors that make it affordable, and then our NIS that make the courses available, and then you also make do some subscription. They'll find a way to make sure that most surveyors have this, and that is one of the global alignments. And also digital workflow. You can see recently now the NIS has migrated from going to NIS office to request for filler to do it automatically from online. These are the ways we are imagining, we are aligning. Then, what are the key gaps that Nigerian surveyors have now? Number one, we have poor understanding of global standards, which is very, very important. We need to learn that. We need to read, there are some courses that we need to do. I will talk about it later. Then, with data presentation skills, most of the time we do a very good work, but we have a very bad presentation. That is hindering us from global world. And also limited technological and AI exposure. Some people, they are limited in technological advantage. Some companies that are still using of tape and compass and so on. While but many companies now, they are adopting the technology. But the AI, many people we are still doing the manual, we use of course because there's so many things online. Using Excel, using different programming languages like Python and so on and so forth. You can automate so many things in solving it. And what are the consequences of poor data quality if the data is not well structured? Number one, we have structural failure. Which of course, many of these building collapse are caused by all these standardization problems. Number two is financial loss. So when you have structural failure, then you have spent billions of naira on particular video and it collapse in one day. And then that will lead to legal liability. I have this study last year, 2019, last year, almost a year ago. One person was moving from Lagos Lagoon, he wants to cross to Ocean Park, that's around the Marina side. And because of small error, tidal problem, and then damage the catabolic. If today they are planning on how to reconstruct the bridge now, they have to demolish it and reconstruct it. Why? Because of small problem that it means that, oh, it's just small value. It's not small value. And then it causes a lot of things from structural failure of the bridge, financial loss, the old dredger worth billions of naira, and also they have legal liability, Lagos State sue them, federal government sue them, Newell sue them. Everybody, they sue the company because of the accident and also reputation damage. It damage the reputation of the company. If they are now, what are the paths to do global reduce pattern? Number one, we need to work on our calibration. We need to make use of calibrated decisions whenever we want to make use of what to do our service. Number two, we need to follow standard procedure. Tell me why how do we get the standard procedure? Number three, you need to apply quality control and quality assurance. Before you submit the data, you must ascertain that what you are giving to your client is very, very accurate. I can give you a good example. Last ago, I did a project for a particular company, just small control service. So when I did it, I said they were sorry. I sent them a original copy and I told them about the fact that I've not done my quality control and I will update the report. There's not a Even by the time I did the quality control, I discovered that there is a new thing I need to adjust. I mean, I agree with that. If I was lost that, so we also need to work on our document. We need to process how we document our workflow. It is very, very important. If you do a good work but you have a bad reporting, it will be as if you have done a very bad service job. And also, we always verify before we submit. That is very important. And you can see, agree with me that if your survey data used to build a bridge, will you trust your own result after that? Now, after having understanding the global workflow, what do we need to do? We have to work on the project documentation. We mentioned that before. Number two, that is very important. You need to understand tendering process, the tendering processes. That is one of the things. In 2024, we had a job in Congo, and one of the problems that we had at initial stage was that number one, we did not understand the tendering process. Number two was that we had language barrier because in the tender we prepared our bid using English language, but by the time we submitted it was rejected on the basis that we supposed to submit our bid in French language because we did not get the tendering process. And all this tendering process is something you can learn from process, procurement management, that we have a World Bank standard you can learn from. We have some courses, online courses that you can learn how to do tendering and how to do bids. So that is very important for if you want to be a global and international surveyor. You need to understand how they operate tendering and how they display your bid documents. And also multinational collaboration. Most of the time, if you don't have alignment with people or professional bodies or professional alignment with another person in the other country, there's no way you can work there successfully. I have a company that I work with sometimes. Every time they have projects in any of these parts of the world, they always ask people there. How do they make friends or how do they make professional colleagues? Number one, by attending most of these international bodies, you have friends, you have collaborations with people. And also, anytime you have jobs in the country, you can easily call them. I have a friend that went to Ghana last year, went to Ghana in 2024. And fortunately for them, less than 6 months after they had a project in Ghana, they called some of their friends that they made during that by the um, so it is very important to attend meetings, to attend seminars, even if it's online, please attend and make friends with all those professional colleagues so that you don't know when you will meet them. Maybe you have a project to do in that company, in that area or in that country. It's very important to contact them to help you do the rest and answers and stuff like that. I think the hotel and everything. The 2024 when I went to Ghana, when I went to it was very easy for us, but because we have two of time that prepare everything for us. Lastly, how do you have to align, adopt standards? That's number one. And when you are working with international bodies, some things are very, very important. You have to be transparent, you have to be consistent, and you have to be meticulous. If you are giving them any document, you must be sure that that is very, very accurate. Number two is continuous development. We cannot, all these things, we learn most of these things. You need to invest in skills, in tools, and in certifications. I can tell you the last 3 months now, I've subscribed for about 3 or 4 certifications. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I will start my internship on Monday on procurement management. So it's very important to subscribe to both of those things. And that is how you can align globally and compete internationally. And also, lastly, is integrate globally. You need to integrate yourself, move from local practice to international or worldwide network. So please, we need to do that. So I think I'm running out of time. Thank you very much. I think that. If you have any question, I can answer. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. We really appreciate your insights. That was truly insightful. Yeah. You have really done justice to the role of global survey practice in a way that directly connects global innovation to our local practice here in Nigeria. So it is clear that our profession is evolving rapidly, and your presentation has given us a practical direction on how to stay relevant. So I'm sure everyone here has taken something valuable. We please let's give him a well-deserved round of applause. Or maybe you can just share your emojis. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So, without taking much of, please, at any point in time, if you have questions, you can drop it in the chat box. Yeah, thank you. So, moving on to the next speaker, we have in our midst Surveyor Olutomi Sadiq. So, I'll be reading his biography, a brief introduction about him. So, Surveyor Oluwatomilayo Sadiq is a registered surveyor at the Office of Surveyor of the State Surveyor General Lagos State, where he contributes to advancing survey practice and strengthening land administration in the public sector. His work in civil service reflects a commitment to excellence, innovation, and public good. Alongside his service, he channels his passion for digital transformation as a visionary at Tuno Technologies, where he has been deeply involved in shaping his direction, solution, and impact. His leadership has influenced the creation of REVA, Nigeria's first virtual real estate assistant, and Surfboard, the country's first survey data management platform designed to structure parcel and survey records. Through these roles, he has helped position Tuno Technologies at the forefront of geospatial. Hello.
Can hear you, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, you sir.
Good. So, we are honored to welcome a visionary whose work bridges public service and excellence with groundbreaking private sector innovation in the geospatial economy. Please, with a rousing applause, please welcome Surveyor Oluwatomilayo Sadiq. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Abidin. I just want to confirm if audible. Why?
Yeah, you are. You are.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'd just like to talk on the topic, which is the global trends and how these global trends are shaping or reshaping local surveying practice. Before I start, I'd just like to, set some expectations with this presentation, which is, not to go into deep in, what those emerging trends are, but is to, set our minds as young surveyors, set our minds to understand the overview of our profession, understand how it has changed over the years, and understand that it will continue to change. Understand that this evolution is this is cannot be avoided, and so we must adapt and then anticipate. This uh, innovations. Hopefully, we will be able to achieve that. So, thank you. So, surveying, most people, by definition, okay, I won't go with the textbook, but what I understand surveying to be is we measure the earth, we measure the earth or part of the earth, whether it's location, extent, or depth or height. And then we also give, so it's a location, extent, depth, height, volume, or orientation. So by definition, a surveyor's output is usually not the end, but usually it means. How do I mean? We if you look at the various fields of surveying, from land surveying to marine to seismic, we are giving data that will be used for something else, right? The surveyor gives his output to perhaps a lawyer for documentation. Surveyor gives his output to an architect to make design for a bigger structure. So it's an output that will lead to a bigger output or lead to a bigger decision. In seismic, maybe a subsurface mapping so that they can make decision on mineral exploration. So somehow it has, by definition, a surveyor really is always at the background because there's always something bigger in front. So over the years, from the old ways of practice from our forefathers, the using chain and compass, they would go through this rigorous field exercise, and their computation is usually maybe a traverse sheet that's giving you corrected coordinates, a back computation that's giving you extent, and then an angular. So it's angles, points, area. And at the end of the day, what is really needed is those outputs to make another decision. But over the years, things have changed. Better instrumentation to give you, if we think about it, better instrumentation to give us those same outputs, points, extent, lines and bearings, and then extents, right? So what they would spend rigorous time turning angles to do, you can now do easily with maybe one instrument with absolute positioning. So traditional surveying practice was field intensive, manual processes, a lot of manual processes, a lot of computations, As well, there was limited emphasis on data analysis and data processing. At the end of the day, you would compute and then give your output in a way. You would have to present it in a graphic way to use. However, with newer technologies, an early trend of innovation, we had total stations where it was a bit less rigorous, but you were cutting off uh, some processes. We were going straight to having corrected coordinates, and then from there back computations to give you the size of the land. And this is what the person who would have contacted you, the consumer, would have been most interested in. Sometimes we surveyors, we are very fixed on what we do and not what people expect of us. Yes, more precision is our business, but the person who is contracting you wants to get those data. Over the years, the new total stations, the GNSS has reduced fill time, increased precision to some degree. Now you have a little bit of digital output, and now from the trend of what our fathers used to do to the just the immediate, uh let's say the 90s, the 2000s, we were starting to have data outputs that were a bit digital, and it started to foster a little bit of interoperability with different fields of studies. Now we could do a little bit of mapping, we could do a little bit of this. And towards that time was, if you look at the advent of the GIS technology. The advent of GIS was, if you look at history of GIS came primarily for land management. A geographer named, I've forgotten the name of the geographer who actually started this. He was trying to manage land resources in Canada at the time, and then they came up with what was going to be the first GIS. So this was a huge opportunity. In fact, in response to this trend of GIS at the time, the 80s and the 90s, was when some of our fathers, and some of them are still alive today, came up with a new name, term, surveying and geoinformatics, right? Because it was a response or a reflection of what the new trend was at the time with the advent of GIS. What they realized was geoinformatics was, now GIS is not geoinformatics per se, but geoinformatics includes GIS and other automated systems. But they saw GIS as an opportunity to broaden the scope of surveyors. Just like I said, a surveyor by definition is output is usually not the end, but it means to the end. He's giving an output that will be turned into a bigger output. Decision will be made on his output to bring a bigger output. GIS was a huge opportunity for us to expand our scope to not just measuring. I'll give you a good example. An estate valuer utilizes data from the surveyor to make valuations on land. Now, if you are talking at the highest level, a president or a sitting governor will want to speak to an estate valuer before he speaks than a surveyor. Why? Because an estate valuer is talking valuation, he's talking revenue, he's talking tax. That's what he wants to hear. A surveyor is talking precision, he's talking accuracy with his measurements. GIS offered us that opportunity to broaden our scope of work beyond just measuring. Now, this data, which formed a large basis of what the GIS actually does or analyze, we collect the data, and we also analyze the data, produce data maps, produce insights beyond even not just valuation, but with land information systems and so on. Today's trend, GIS has evolved to using from servers to desktop applications to cloud workflows and cloud and digital workflows. uh, the infrastructure that GIS sits on now is way different from what it used to be, which makes it, there's a democratization now. So different fields can key into this. It's a shame that if we look at surveying as a profession, we learn surveying and geoinformatics in school, but if you look at the practice of surveying, we see that survey firms do not imbibe geoinformatics in their firms. So it's just the same old land surveying and maybe engineering, where we are losing the opportunity to actually broaden our scope and data-driven systems as well. So the impact, so let's look at the impact of this on our practice currently. Now we have all these technology and all of them. So it means that our work obviously should be faster. We have drones. If we have a large expanse of land, it means that we can measure it and do our work within the shortest time. So our project delivery is way faster. Uh, higher data expectations. Now there's easy integration with other sectors. We can send our outputs while on site, even in real time, and new skills requirements as well. One of the and also opportunities ahead as well. Cross industry relevance, which is what we really need. The opportunities, this technology and this advancement and this emerging technologies gives us expanded roles as long as we key into this technology. Surveying and cloud services, automated workflows require a lot of tech expertise, and so the modern surveyor should be to an extent a tech expert, to the extent that he can manage his data, the type of our data, and produce solutions that will be useful to not just surveyors but to the public as well. And if we ignore these trends, one of the impacts of technology, not just on our practice, but even it also impacts the behavior of our consumers. Because they are now the expectation on a surveyor in 1985 is different from the surveyor in 2026. The client has higher expectations. Is even the client is better informed because we are in a global world now because of technology and the internet. So even the clients they have some sort of expertise, so they demand more. I've had clients, many of us would have had clients ask us if they have the name on the survey plan, can they actually, just the name on the survey plan, can they actually get their can they get their plan even if they did it decades ago? Why is he asking that question? He knows that there are systems in place, there are data-driven systems that will allow you to keep your records and be able to extract it in a smart way. It is not enough for the surveyor to be saying, no, if you only have the plan number or whatever, that's when you are going to get it. So he's looking at you like, why is that? Why is that? It shouldn't be that way. Or if you did a withdrawal and resubmission, for example, you should be able to know which plan was withdrawn and why it was withdrawn, no matter when, because the client himself knows that there are systems that should enable this. So it's not enough for a surveyor in this day and age to still be giving old excuses. The impact of some of these trends means that the behavior of consumers have also improved, and so they demand more, not just in terms of delivery, but even in terms of the sophistication and how we render our business. We risk being sidelined or replaced, or if our skills continue to become obsolete, we risk losing our relevance, because the truth is, at the end of the day, we have to think value rather than not just our work. We have to think, what's the value for the person that we are trying to give. Nobody wants to wait on somebody. The engineer doesn't want to wait on the surveyor anymore to bring outputs. If there's a way you can do it without having to rely, if there was a way I could hang my TV without calling a carpenter to fix the brackets. If I could do it myself, I wouldn't call him. So we have to understand that until if we do not embrace and if we don't anticipate all these changes, then we risk being sidelined. So the way forward, just as we've implied from past, is having an adaptive mindset towards change in emergence. As we've seen that it's constant over time, the climate is going to change. So we must adapt. And in fact, before adapting, we must anticipate it. And anticipating means building our capacity, continuous learning, embracing innovation, and thinking value added services. So the thing is key. Evolution is constant. The climb will continue to change. We've seen with AI, we've seen the effect of AI. You have a huge library of resources where a system that can do uh, predictive learning, can do all sorts of analysis, replacing people who have repetitive tasks. You have AI. A lot of people losing jobs, especially people who are doing repetitive tasks, are losing jobs due to AI. And even some tasks that require more than about 10 people don't require that much just because of AI. So we shouldn't think, because surveying is a kind of traditional profession, we shouldn't think that we are immune to these changes as well. So we must own the front, we must broaden our scope through um, through capacity building, embrace this emerging trends and technology. We must also be seen to have a grasp of our data, like our outputs, a grasp of our outputs, and understanding of what our output actually does to those who require them from us. So, like I said, the aim of this wasn't to go deep into the technology or the technicalities, but to let the young surveyor understand what the surveyor does and what the surveyor needs to do to keep up with emerging trends. So once again, thank you to the YSN International Affairs Committee for the opportunity. This is the point where I come to the end of my presentation. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Awesome,
We can
awesome.
hear you,
Yeah.
sir.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for such a wonderful and sterling presentation. We really, really appreciate you. And I believe that as a network, we have learned a whole lot from what you have shared. I would want to urge those that have questions on the call to please drop it in the chat box so that okay, I think I see a couple of questions here. So we'll just take the questions on the call and so that our resource persons can do justice to it. All right. I think the first question here says, from Adewale Abolaji, says, what's your thoughts about the communal nature of the profession, in the sense that if you give some added value services and charge higher, and one other surveyor gives some basic services and charges lower, and in the course of that, the client, who is in a way not really learned but educated, prefers to go for just the basic services because it is cheap. So what are your thoughts about that relative to international practices and standards? So I don't really know who would want to attempt this question, but it's open to any of the panelists to do justice to it.
Yeah. Sorry, I would just like to add. Yeah. So I like that question because while I was preparing this presentation, I intentionally left out issue of policies as having any effect, because policies or regulatory issues having effect on things like emerging trends or innovation. You know, I don't think there's any policy that can change Google. It's the other way around. These innovations and these advancements should shape policies instead, not the other way around. So if we, unfortunately, yes, we can see it as some kind of hindrance, but it is innovation if it actually changes policies. I don't know if you get how I mean. If you are innovative enough to add value, bring new innovative value added services, with time, the policy will have no choice but to recognize those innovations. A very good example is in the fintech sector. For many years, you'd see traditional banks criticize all these fin services, all these tech apps and payment gateways, but over time they've come to accept it, and it's like the new norm now. So the aim of this is to see this as a challenge. Unfortunately, to see this as a challenge, the if we refine our practice, if we refine one surveyor at a time, if we continue to refine our practices, some of all these issues.
So are you still there? I think we lost you we lost you for a bit. Oh, Sophia Sadiq, are you still on the call? Okay, I think we lost him for a moment there. We'd just like to take the second question. And I think Savio Jimo Habib can, attend to that. How
Okay.
can regulatory bodies better support innovation in surveying practice?
Okay. Yeah. Just like I mentioned during my presentation, um, most of our regulatory bodies, they are really trying because they improve day by day. And part of what I pointed out during this presentation was the idea of the NIS having the uniform core stations so that everybody can reference their work to it. That's number one. Another thing is by finding a way to talk to the GPS vendor to give it in bulk to the NIS body so that they'll be deducting money directly from the source. Because it is very, very common. If you allow some surveyors to, if you give them leverage to go and buy GPS, many of them that have a GPS unit today, they wouldn't have it by now. But because of the regulatory bodies, they have a way to impose or to advise and encourage them to have one by okay, removing the money, deducting it small, small, to encourage everybody to be carried along and then they can have it. That is one way, that's one of the notable ways you can support. They supported our innovation in surveillance. But let me tell you something. This thing, it's more of individuality. They cannot force some of things on you. You have to work on your own to improve yourself, to improve the service you are delivering. And part of, let me add this is like, in addition to the first question, most of the time, if your product is very good, your client will not have any choice than to pay any amount you are charging them. So you really need to convince them at the first instance, give them the best work, and they won't go away. They will not go away. Even if your price is higher than every other person, they'll still prefer to do it with you because you know that you are giving them the quality job. But if you are not distinct yourself from others, then there's no way they hear everybody at the same thing and then they will treat you as commoners. So please, this innovative idea we are talking about is more of individuality, but our bodies are also trying in a way by improving and making our the equipment available, the latest equipment available to buy in incremental package and all this. So these are the ways they are assisting. But most of the work lies on the individual company or individual surveyor to work on themselves, to train themselves, and to align with global standards. For example, now, this training now we are talking about, the professional body can also organize things. Of course, they are doing that. I know of MCTD that's being organized by both NIS, NIS National and NIS. So those are the ways they are contributing to our development. Which of course they are really trying. But please, most of this work we have to do it on our own also. You need to be early. Many a times we call for the webinar or training or event. Many people will not come. They will say it's just money, they will pay the money, but they won't come. So they cannot force everybody. So, but I think they are trying. They have fast match. For me, they have fast match. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that response. I think this would be our last question from Abidin says, would you say that the opportunities in hydrographic surveying are currently underutilized in Nigeria due to lack of knowledge of what's applicable globally? So, Jimo, that question is specifically for you.
Okay. Well, for me, I would say that the major problem, not about lack of knowledge, I mentioned it during the presentation. We know what we want to do. In fact, we have knowledge now. We are more informed than before. Before, in the Lagos State, we do not have certified surveyor or the Cat B, Cat A surveyor. We don't really have them before. But now we can have over 20, 30 of certified registered professional hydrographer, Cat A or Cat B certified certifications. So we have that. We have knowledge. I'm sure we are taught in school, we know most of the theory, but the problem is that many a times most of these equipment are not available. I can give you an example. For example, now, Unilag is one of the schools that has a very good hydrographic practices in Nigeria, but I can boldly tell you that we don't have multi-beam. I can tell you boldly that I don't think any of the Nigerian institutions has multi-beam equipment. Then, if you know the theory, how do you want to do the practical? So many of us will go to the industry to learn. That if you have the opportunity to join any industry that has equipment, what if you don't have the such opportunity? So till today, even many of these are big companies in Nigeria, they still lack basic equipment in hydrography because they are very expensive. And the problem of Nigeria is that investment is very dangerous. It's very the money, the capital is very intensive, very very large, very huge. So many companies they cannot afford it. That's the major problem. It is funds, it is equipment. Knowledge, I think many people will have knowledge, we have many surveyors that can do a lot of wonders, but they have shortage of equipment. I think it's about equipment, not really knowledge. We have the procedure, we know the work to do, we are doing trainings and everything, but how do we carry out the practical? It's only few of us that was able, few of our friends that was able to travel abroad to do the practice, to do the Cat A or Cat B, they did practical real life. But by the time they come back, they don't have the opportunity to make use of the equipment again because only few companies have the equipment. It's about equipment, it's about funds, not really the knowledge. The knowledge, I think the knowledge is there. And with proper equipment and guidance, I think you can go far away, you can go far in the journey of radiography operations in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That's spot on, and thank you so very much to both speakers, Surveyor Jimo Habib and Surveyor Sadiq Kadri. We really appreciate how well you have dealt with this topic, and I believe we have our notepad filled with insights and light bulb moments from this webinar. part of the things I picked up is you have to be so good that your clients cannot refuse but pay what you are charging, and also keep abreast with what is happening on the global, scene, so that the survey you carrying out in Lagos State can be verified by a surveyor in Afghanistan, so to say. Thank you very much, sir. So at this juncture, I would want to, crave the indulgence of the state chair of the Young Surveyors Network, Lagos State, to give an appreciative remark to our speakers on on this webinar. State chairman, please, can you step up to the lectern?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to our speakers for sharing such wonderful insights concerning how the global trend and is reshaping the practice of surveying locally. I appreciate everyone who joined the webinar. Also, personally, I've learned a lot, and I want to believe that you all have learned a lot and have added to your knowledge base. Thank you once again, the Committee for International Affairs Committee. Thank you for bringing up this wonderful webinar. Speakers, I really appreciate you for taking out time out of your busy schedule to share with us your knowledge. I want to implore everyone who attended this webinar to not just listen to the things, but you can visit everything that you have jotted down in order for you to, put them to use. Because the webinar is not just designed for us to, attend and hear everything and then go back and continue to do the things we've been doing, but rather for us to keep improving ourselves, to keep equipping ourselves with knowledge that would, propel us towards greater tomorrow as in our practice of the profession. So thank you everyone once again. I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much. On the chat box is the feedback form, and when we set out for this webinar, I informed us that we will be taking feedback from the participants so we can better improve on the quality of services we offer to the network. So please, the feedback form is on the chat box. Please do well to fill it. It won't take more than 20 seconds of your time. And we'll also be dropping the feedback form on the social group on the Wise and Lagos WhatsApp platform. And it's going to be there for a couple of days. And so I think that brings us to the end of this webinar. But before we go, two things. We're going to have a group photograph, and we are also going to give a round of a virtual applause to our resource persons. They have done excellently well, and you can bear witness to the fact that we have garnered a thing or two, right? So I would at this point urge everyone on the call to please turn on your cameras, your cameras, so that we can have a, a virtual group photograph on the call. Media team, are we ready? Media team, are we ready? Let's not smile for too long. Okay.
All right, we are good.
We are good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so that brings us to the end of our webinar. Please stay glued to the network for updates. Stay glued to the WhatsApp platform for upcoming webinars. Thank you very much to our parent, the One Young Surveillance Network Lagos State chapter, to all our resource persons, and to everyone on the call. The International Affairs Committee appreciates you, and we hope to see you on our next event. Thank you very much and have a lovely weekend. See you tomorrow at the physical meeting at the NIS house. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.